welcome back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, so my god, Arma 3 comes to Linux! I'm kidding. It's another non-native wrap port from our friends at Virtual Programming. Intel demos Vulkan. It's quite the shocker, and don't expect Steamboxers to suspend a goddamn thing. Yeah, they don't speak suspend. In what?
Valve wants you to get the big picture, and so they pushed out a new update. Epic arms their engine and dips their fingers in a little bit of STL. And Iculus wants to learn you something. Welcome to Vulkan Kindergarten.
Malware. People finally found Greenlight. Makes you wonder who Valve's quote-unquote hands-off approach is really helping. NVIDIA gets a new stable driver, and I personally need to learn to read instead of just skimming. Finally, Obsidian screws the pooch. I had almost forgotten why I hate them.
I'm Ben Stone here at LGC Actual in Athens, switching the bits, doing this nightmare fuel, and all the way in Canadian land, our teamed Canadian podcast.
Oh, hi, eh?
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 Bye-bye. And all the way
And I'm drunk, so you can take a shot.
That's brilliant. And together with the Chat Realm Dynamic, joining us live in the Chat Realms, we form a bit of a cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, before we get into this, we like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. I'm going to go first since I actually broke down and got caught up on Rick and Morty. It's pretty good. I liked it. If you've been on the fence, just watch it. It's Doctor Who with mothering cartoons. And I might or might not also be tinkering around with the Unities. Well, you might hear a bit more about that in the upcoming weeks. What's up, Jay Baby?
Yeah, what do you call it? Rick and Morty is basically Doctor Who if the Doctor was a high-functioning alcoholic, which I think really speaks to Ven. No, it's Fan Expo this week in Toronto, so I figured I'd go over there and press some flesh for LinuxGameCast, see what kind of cool indie shit is up. And apparently there's none. No one exhibiting there actually had a Linux game. So I decided to go to the Intel Pavilion and see if they had anything interesting regarding Steam boxes. Nothing! In fact, when I tried to find a technical person, the only person they had there was a second-year university computer science intern, and who went like full deer cotton headlights when I brought up the i965 driver. He's just like, what? So I realized this is like getting blood from a stone, man. Pedro!
Wait, I thought you got a picture.
Oh, yes, that's true. I got a picture. I found a Unicorn Wizard and Princess handjob cosplayer.
Sweet.
So I had to get a photo of that. I could not get some FaceTime with Mike Tyson or Phil Lamar, which kind of made me sad. Though, if I'm going to see if I can talk to Rob Picardo tomorrow, because his booth is dead, and I feel bad for him. I want to see if I can steal the hat from Inner Space. But, yeah, Pedro, what's going on with you?
I got new glasses, and they came with new prescription sunglasses. So yeah, that was
Did
that.
they also come with an unmarked white van?
Unfortunately, not. It was just 350 euros out of my bank account, just poof, gone.
Well, enough about that free candy. What's up with the horse this week, baby?
The horse is getting a bit inflated. Apparently, there are some AAA titles, so it's starting to bloat. It's our Steamers update. Oh my god! It's almost as if when AAA games get released on Linux, our numbers go up, and that's what the Steam hardware survey seems to support. We gain some, what was it in this guy right
0.7.
Yeah, not 0.07 percentage.
So we are almost back at 1%, huh?
Yeah, we are almost back to being the 1%. We had Shadow of Mordor and Company of Heroes, and I think those were the only two AAA releases this month. But that's still enough to get people to actually log into their Linux boxes to play stuff, which of course will trigger the Steam hardware surveys that these pathetic fools will never, ever get. But Pedro, you bring up a really good point about Steam machines. You were saying something about that.
Yeah, here's the thing. We keep bringing up the whole hardware survey thing, and if you're a subscriber to Linux_Gaming on the subreddit, you're probably kind of tired of seeing people, oh yeah, we're at some such percent, and we've decreased. Yeah. And
my favorite post is, "Oh my god, I got the Steam hardware survey."
Yeah, that's kind of a meme in Linux Master Race subreddit. But yeah, I'm gonna hold off on commenting anything further on these numbers until the Steam machines come out, or at least until Valve stops using Flash on the goddamn page.
And I shudder to say this, but you're 100% right on this. These numbers will always suck until we actually start getting Steam hardware in the wild and people actually start using the product.
I don't know. I'm going to sound like a fucking horrible person because I was like, this is a real problem I have, and I've had this problem ever since we're going to do Steam machines. I, to this day, cannot. Who is the target market for pre-made Steambox? I hate saying that, but I'm just being honest.
It's the people who buy like pre-built gaming PCs, which I mean, Alienware still exists for a reason.
And console gamers. I mean, think about it. They didn't have backwards compatibility with the PS4 at launch. They didn't have backwards compatibility with the Xbox One. So, yeah. I mean, everyone has a Steam account at this point, and chances are at least a third of your Windows library is going to work on Linux. So
but
why not?
It's not necessarily all the games you want to play, though.
Maybe, but then again, you don't want to play all the games on a console.
Yeah. But speaking of Steam machines, they have a bit of a problem with the suspend.
This comes from Ars Technica. You can find this noise like everything else in our show notes. Steam machines won't have a quote-unquote suspend function. Oh my god, the horror! There could possibly be an 8 to 12 second boot time, as opposed to the Xbox One or the PS4's 20 to 30 plus second boot time. Matt, now we did, before the show, have a bit of discussion about this, and me and Jordan on two different levels, and Jordan explained his thing. Me personally, I was, cut it off. I mean, especially if you have an SSD boot drive. If you don't, it's like, oh, okay, maybe you have to wait, 15 seconds to get the damn thing up.
Mm-hmm.
And
on a bad day. On
a bad day. But even if you left it on 24/7, my biggest thing was, even like RenderBox and running all this noise on right here doesn't make a noticeable difference in the power bill. But J-Man had a different take on that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to consider that a lot of low-income people game as well, and when it comes to leaving a lot of people do this. A lot of people just leave their computers and their consoles on. At least like the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, they'll go into suspend mode if you leave it alone for like an hour or two. But when you don't have a lot of money, getting hit for an extra couple bucks on your power bill can actually be something that's fairly detrimental. So it is a feature that some people will care about, and it really is on the kernel folks. I mean, Valve has been doing their best, but this is a kernel level feature. They need to get that fixed.
I did have one doubt about this thing, which is when they say suspend, do they mean sleep or hibernate?
They mean, I think they mean hibernate. Because suspend works under Linux. I mean, I've been using that for years. So
well, yeah,
it does.
I don't even bother with suspend anymore. I quit using it when I got this box on. It stays on until it's done. Right. It takes longer for the Moon BIOS to fucking post.
Yep.
And I'm at a full XFCE desktop. I mean, full, ready to go. Not waiting. This is not Windows, which it's here's desktop, but we're still starting the damn operating system in like 8 seconds. So I'm like, it's been a long time. I mean, I used to like wave around my EP and like, I got an uptime of 160 days. Those days are gone, son. I don't do that anymore.
Now you just do systemd analyze and you get like, oh, it takes 9 seconds for me to boot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, systemd. Send your hate mail to it now. Up next, Steam Beta Client. We got a new beta client. Not much in the Linux department. They added some additional audio codecs for Steam Music. That is certainly a thing.
Well, I did hear somebody say, I mean, I'm paraphrasing because I read it on the Reddits, that with the addition of FLAC, OGG, Vorbis, M4A, both AAC and Apple Lossless, now the Steam Music player is what they would call useful?
Yeah, no, it's certainly full-featured now. That took them long enough. You'll see. But No, they've also introduced a new UI for big picture mode that is a little less console-y and a little more functional. I actually kind of like it. It makes sense.
I like it.
It works from both like a keyboard and mouse and from a controller perspective, which I think the previous iteration of big picture mode didn't. It worked for controller, but keyboard and mouse not so much. The other big thing they added is they with the full UI refresh, everything now has a big picture mode native version. So for like DLC and equipment and all that good stuff. But Ven, something about raids.
Wait, what were you going to say, P-Man?
No, I just mostly agreeing with Jordan that I like this new UI. It looks much more streamlined. The old UI looked a bit clunky. There were those big icons on screen, and there was a lot of wasted space. Mm-hmm. Now they actually make use of that space, and I like it. Sitting across the living room and looking at a 46-inch 1080p TV.
So a little tiny one.
It looks great. Yeah.
I got the beta, and I was like, okay, that's neat. Oh, that's fun stuff. And restarted, and I had like 2 games installed, and I was like, oh, so it begins. It's okay. Let's check because we got the 2 SSDs and YOLO RAID for the recording, and I keep like a majority of the shit I want to play because it comes up like that.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, it sees it. Right. Okay. Delete it. It's like, you must delete every game. And I was like, fuck that noise. I'm not deleting all those games. And then it was, maybe I'll just add it back. And I was like, add. And he's like, these are not mounted executable. And I was like, really? They seem to be fucking working over there.
That's a bit weird.
Right. So fortunately, before I went to the deep dive of like debugging this, I was like, how about you just roll out of the beta van and see if it goes back to normal sauce, which I did, and it did, and I was like, all right. So that didn't happen.
But
right,
it's time to get a virus.
Yes, it begins. So this is a story that comes from powerupgaming.co.uk. As usual, you can find everything in the notes. And apparently, malware distributors have finally found the Steam Greenlight process. They pay $100 and they get a shit ton of people to download whatever link they claim is a beta for their game, in this case, Dinostopia. And
which sounds like something Pedro would write in one of his articles, to be perfectly honest.
Maybe, although Dinostopia itself, I'd have to be combining 2 really weird words. But anyway, this quote-unquote beta that they were trying to get people to install was malware. It did a bunch of things. You can find more details in the article.
Kind of the tricky thing, I was reading about people that had actually experienced this, and the people who discovered this were just regular users. This thing was yoinking their damn Steam account, and this game was going out like writing good reviews about this.
Yeah, it was. And it was basically handing over control for the PC that was under attack. It was just handing over control of it and sending out positive reviews.
So it's kind of a mixed bag. I don't know if it's necessarily, it's malware, period, if it does anything that makes us do that. But it wasn't necessarily focused on creating a botnet or anything like that. But it was a very bad idea for them to do. Now, this only affected Winbros. It's nothing to worry about. Yep. But I want to give you a bit of a PSA. Don't download shit from alternate sources that are linked, especially if it's like, oh, it's on hot files or what is it? No, don't.
Do not download shit from links on Greenlight pages, period.
To be honest, I'm honestly surprised that it took this long for someone to pull something like that. This is something I would have expected, like maybe when Greenlight first came out. But yeah, no, this is insidious, and it seemed relatively harmless at first, but that just goes to show you that the attack vector is there, and really Valve needs to start taking a more proactive approach.
Yeah, I mean, there's something Peanut, you put in the notes about how Valve post actively.
Valve is still Valve. The prevention measures only come after the fact. We've seen it when they stop people from buying games outside of their region, and then they forgot to account for, different currencies. There were a
But,
couple of other examples.
This is going to lead up to like a Sony level breach though, and it's not going to be good for Valve. They need to start securing their home front, not just for their users, but for them. Because
remember a while back when we talk about the guy from Euro Truck Simulator 2 that found a bug and Valve
got
did
banned
nothing, and then he kind of exploited the bug and they banned him from Steam?
Yeah, I mean,
This
you
is
got to
Valve.
remember, when that guy exploited the bug, he did it to show Valve. He's like, hey, guys, look. This
Dude,
is...
I've already reported this 2 months ago. You still haven't fixed it. Get on with it.
Yeah,
And
and there's a larger discussion to be had about the ethics of disclosure and responsible disclosure thereof, but that is outside Linux Gamecast. But you know what is inside Linux Gamecast? Some virtual programming.
Oh, baby. Experimental ports, public beta, Arma 3, that's right. We've started the public beta for the experimental client ports for Linux and Mac. They're available as a complimentary service. Note this, to anyone who owns Arma 3 for Windows. Please check out the overview page for more details, limitations. You could run into those. And fact, and if you're wondering what Arma 3 is, here it is. It's a thing. Experience true combat, run around, pew, 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 Brown Simulator. 60 quid.
Literally.
Now, the first thing I definitely took from this when I was like, oh, Arma 3 and all right. Riddle me this, gentlemen. So when Aspire ports a game or Feral ports a game, they're listed as publishers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can always go down to publisher. And this one still says Bohemia Interactive. And here's a bit of a clue organ for everyone. When you hear that, oh, we have an experimental or we have a Linux port, and you don't see Feral or Aspire or anybody who put, it's virtual programming. It's a non-native port. It's wrapped in their proprietary sauce that they don't give back to the community. And fuck you. And
it doesn't work on Intel GPUs or AMD GPUs or AMD CPUs.
okay, yes, there are exceptions from like flibbity jibbity ibbity bibbity
Flip it.
or
Or
Ryan,
if they're legitimately doing an in-house
G-Money
port.
when he does that business, but for a big title like this or something like that. But yeah, virtual programming is never mentioned at any time. But here's the thing. If you get the game on Windows, we want Windows users to try it on their Linux boxes. Right. Okay.
You mean the virtual machines?
You genuinely want Windows users to QA the Linux build. That is brilliant. I give these men gold stars.
It's pretty
They
ballsy. I'll give them
expect
that.
people to buy the game on the off chance that the quote-unquote ports will be maintained. There was that other game.
Yeah, man, they're
Sunless
not
Sea.
even guaranteeing that they're going to keep this thing alive.
Precisely.
Kinda
There
like
was
the
that
Unity
game
Linux
Sunless
build.
Sea that did the exact same thing. They said, buy the Windows version, send us an email, and we'll give you access to the Linux build. Remember last week when we talked about Unity doing that? This is worse. This is actually worse because you have to pay up front for the game, and it's not a cheap game. We're talking about
it's a
$60
$60 AAA game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's 45 euros here, $60 all the way in the US. Congratulations, Bohemia Interactive. You guys are worse than Unity.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's another company lazily using Eon to fire off a shitty Steam OS version because November is coming. But it kind of makes me upset because Arma is a big deal.
It is.
A lot of people like DayZ. It has a very active modding community.
Yeah, that's the thing. DayZ is a Arma 2
Can
mod.
I finish? And a proper Linux version.
DayZ is a Arma 2 mod.
It is an Arma 2 mod, but they're working on porting it to Arma 3, I believe. I remember seeing something about that in their
There's a standalone version. They don't need to.
Oh, well, either way. There is... Okay, so my information is a bit old, but regardless, it is a fairly big game. It has a very active modding community. Having this on Linux would be great because it gives more reason for people to actually ditch their Windows partition, which they're never going to really fucking do. But
Okay.
just using Eon is really, really lazy. You guys really said everything.
Yeah, definitely when it comes down to Eon. Shot Realm, send us some hate mail and your thoughts about this for next week if you want to. And let me know what I'm about to say. What are your thoughts on it? Because I don't consider this a beta test per se. I consider this a let's see if we can get away with this shit test.
Yup.
So,
Next.
That's kind of what CD Projekt Red did.
Slain!
But Slain, yes, the game that I actually know shit about now. This is it's a upcoming game. It's not out yet. You can't even pre-order it. It is a exploratory golden axey hack and slasher where you run around and beat stuff up with a big ass sword. One of the cool things about it is they got one of the old guitarists from Celtic Frost to do the soundtrack, which is pretty fucking metal. And it looks like it could be a pretty fun old school beat 'em up. You get your magic, you get your big ass sword, and apparently this was created by a team of two, but that's not really surprising, all things considered, for a hipster pixel game.
Yeah.
Hell, for one thing that really was interesting is that for the Windows version, you don't even need a video card.
Rotary processor.
I don't
but
know.
Yeah, I was
Oh, go on.
No, I was looking at the screenshots and the videos, and I'm like, this kind of reminds me of Altered Beast. And then I decided, let's go Google Altered Beast. From Mega, the magazine that was the authority
Well,
on
it was
Genesis.
Mega. I think in the States it was called, what was it? Sega Visions.
I honestly don't remember. I found the article by Mega
My
that
history's
called
better than
Altered
yours.
Beast the #1 worst game of all time
Old man penis fight.
for the Genesis.
Pedro, you're so dead to me.
Yeah.
No, man, my first Mega Drive came with Altered Beast, man. I played that. Get out of that game, man, because I loved it at the arcades.
Castlevania 2.
Really, the only thing about Slain, exclamation point, which is now the name of the game, is, I mean, what it is...
Slain!
Yeah, combat puzzle and all that, but I'm looking at the hipster pixels, and the only thing I'm worried about is, you guys remember that bullshit Sonic clone, I guess
Yes.
is and how gracefully
remember the
that
name,
scaled once we put it at, like...
it didn't. You want to talk about like shitty scaling? Look at Serpent in the Staglands. My God, that is
I started that up the other day. It's
that
not
will legitimately make your eyes bleed. Like, that is messed
All
up.
right, let's talk about some
But-
golden showers.
It's time for rain.
Golden
yeah.
showers
Some
and
awesome-
games that are no longer in early access. This is Satellite Rain. They claim that it's a real-time class-based strategy game set in an open-world cyberpunk city. You command a group of 4 agents through rain-soaked neon-lit streets where the law is the will of the mega corporations. If that sounds familiar, you probably played Fallout Tactics a long time ago. Real-time combat, squad management, 4 people team, and it kind of borrows the cyberpunkiness, quote unquote, from Shadowrun or Deus Ex, as you will.
It looks like a bit of all right.
More Deus Ex than Shadowrun. Shadowrun is all
More
cyberpunk
Deus Ex than
magic
Shadowrun.
and
Shadowrun
elves.
has got the orcs and the elves and the magic. This one's just cyberpunkish, full on. It looks alright. It's a real-time strategy with a heavier focus on action, perhaps, than the strategy elements themselves.
Pedro, apparently it sounds like something. It sounds like something.
Yeah, it sounds like Syndicate, except Syndicate is actually turn-based strategy. I may be wrong.
I don't know. It's definitely a real-time strategy. Going to look into that. That's probably what we're going to be throwing some chairs at next
They sent
week.
us some keys.
They did billions of years ago,
While
and we haven't
back
been
when it
able
was
to put a
in
lot of
early
time into it.
access.
Yeah, just came out of early access this week, so check that noise out. $29.99. Definitely probably want to wait on us to get our hands on it before you go spending your wet, stinky cashes.
Indeed, but coming up next, NVIDIA has some incoming mirror support, and Intel shows you why you should use Vulkan.
They give you the shocker.
Gentlemen, boys and girls, get on with the blues, because it's time for the news. And as usual, in true LGC weekly tradition, let's get on with some drivers. NVIDIA, once again, proving that, AMD is not even in the race at this point. And this is 35511. It's basically a merger of all the previous betas. It's a stable driver. It gets full EGL compatibility. Read, Vulkan is coming, yo. And I'm actually an idiot because when I first read through this page, I'm like, oh, EGL, and my brain processed that as OpenGL ES. But no, it's not exactly the same thing. EGL is something that OpenGL relies on to talk to the window manager. And as Jordan will explain in a little bit, it's a completely different thing.
Yes, there's actually nothing really Vulkan related in this release. The cool thing that did get added with this driver, though, is that they are adding full OpenGL support to EGL, which means that, as Pedro said, EGL is the API that allows the window manager to communicate with the driver and so on. So we can expect actually having full OpenGL support in Mirror, which is great because Wayland is going nowhere. They merged in some of the support for the 950 and some of the newer Quadro Enterprise GPUs, which is cool. And finally, everyone is cut on over to the new build system. So all you package maintainers, you got some work to do.
I don't know. I'm definitely happy with that, especially it's like 950 just came out. Put in a driver. AMD is like, glue stick. That's definitely a thing. But up next, we're going to talk about Vulkan TM on Intel registered graphics at SIGGRAPH 2015. Now,
do we have like the soundbite of like the drop, or do we have to? Did we not cue that up?
No, we don't have the soundbite of the drop. But we're looking here for the audio listeners. We're seeing the CPU load roughly about 90% on this.
On a single core of a 4-core CPU.
Yes, OpenGL. That's OpenGL rendering.
For OpenGL.
Integrated graphics, and they're going to switch over to Vulkan in just a moment, and you'll see that CPU load. Nope, like a mofo. Just like,
and spread out across all cores, which is the cool thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's I mean, why is this a good thing? Why is
so yeah, he's switching now, and look at the charts.
It's like drop.
Wow.
Drop the bass!
Whoa.
I mean, the CPU utilization on a single thread went from 90% down to 20, and the frames per second
the other cores
doubled.
Start picking up the slack.
Right.
Now, Now we've actually seen this before. If you recall, a couple weeks ago, the guys from Power VR, they had their own little development board with their ARM GPU. They did a Vulkan demo with GNOME. Or with Gnomes, not GNOME, the desktop environment. And
yes.
we saw something very similar when they switched from OpenGL to Vulkan. In OpenGL, single core was the bottleneck. There was one CPU going really, really high, and then when you switch it to Vulkan, everything cuts over to multiple GPUs. That's all very crazy threaded, and total CPU and resource utilization drops. And it looks like our suspicions were confirmed, but you got to keep in mind, as exciting as this is, we're not going to see anything regarding this in like actual Linux games until about this time next year. So
I don't know. I'm kind of confident that we'll be seeing some of this towards the end of this year.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's a very enticing thing to look at, and I understand, we have some filthy dual-booting heathens, but maybe you're a Windows user and you're kind of Linux curious, and maybe you just say, yeah, it's good, DX12, I'm going to download more RAM on my Xbox. The biggest issue I have with the DX anything is it's not really cross-platform, Brad. This is...
no, it's not.
Kind of throw some sauce at the PS4. It's going to throw some sauce on Windows. I'm going to throw the sauce on the Linux, on the Macs, on the mobiles. I mean, this is... Just looking at that, I mean, now this is a very controlled environment. Let's just be honest with that.
Yeah, it is entirely an artificial benchmark.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, they set this up to make it do that, but it's still doing it. So some credit where credit is due. Yes, no, maybe sideways.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. And actually, do we want to cut over to the next one right now?
Okay.
Because it's related. So our good friend Ickelbutts, Ryan Seagordon.
G-Money.
G-Money. He put together a bit of a blog post sort of going over why this kind of thing happens. And he gives a code snippet from Mesa with the Intel GPU. And there is starting from line 645 in there's a significant block of code in the OpenGL driver that in Vulkan does not exist. That actually moves to your application. And the execution path for executing your 3D commands on your hardware is significantly shorter. But that brings one really crucial thing. We are trusting developers now to actually create high-quality optimized code that will tell the driver what to actually do. And as we've seen in the past, that is a big if. Pedro will go into this in more detail, but it is significantly easier said than done.
Yeah, that whole thing is assuming that developers are actually coding a damn thing, because engines like Unity make it so that anyone can release a game made out of assets without having to code a damn thing. So unless the engine editors and the people behind those engine editors, like the people behind Unity, can make it so that the editor has those optimizations built in, those quote-unquote game developers can export a Vulkan build, it won't make a damn difference. If that's not in there, it won't work.
And one final thing to note is, even though Vulkan is coming and it's awesome and we all love it, OpenGL is not going anywhere. OpenGL, there's still a ton of OpenGL code in the wild that still needs to be maintained. So this isn't the last we're going to hear of it. But it's really cool stuff.
It is
but
definitely cool stuff, and I'd like to see it. I mean, you might almost call it Unreal.
Oh, that's a nice transition, Ben. Unreal Engine 4.9 is unleashed to the masses, and it brings with it some really cool stuff. Like, you have to, like, I have the unclicky scroll wheel that lets me just ride the scroll wheel on the ball bearing, and it took about 3 minutes to actually hit the bottom of just letting it roll. So they add a ton of new shit. If we want to zero in on a couple cool bits, there's a ton of Linux fixes for the editor to make it actually function. The coolest thing, in my opinion, is they added support so you can build your Unengine 4 game for Linux on Arm. That
sounds kind of crazy, but didn't they do something with the SDLs and the twos?
Yeah,
yes,
that's
they did. They switched to using STL key codes instead of raw keyboard scan codes, which basically removes a lot of the overhead for detecting what kind of keyboard you're using onto STL, which will just figure it out for you automatically. It's wonderful. One other thing that got added with this latest update is DirectX 12 support is added, which begs the question, War of Vulkan! Well,
Vulkan's definitely coming. We were talking earlier in the show.
We'll see that in October.
It is like Unreal is like looking around at everybody and it's just like, oh, you gotta dropping a bomb on everyone. The open source, free, but you gotta get me. It's like, that's only if you make over $10,000, Brad, and trust me, your fucking asset game won't. But it's just so fucking mental with SDL support and all this other crazy business involved in this, and native Linux editor, be bad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. This kind of puts Unity to shame, and I hope we get to see a lot more Unreal games coming, because we're getting kind of tired of the Unity ghetto, if we're being honest. And the fact that they're integrating... We can have
the Unreal ghetto.
Yeah, hopefully not. Because even that really shitty game that we'll talk about more in the hate mail section, it's still, like Ven said at the time, it's still a better love story than Unity, and we kind of want to see more of that. Maybe someone will come and blow our minds with it, but we still haven't seen that one killer game.
Well, yet. Pedro, that just sounds like a bunch of speculation.
Before we
speaking of... we have
I wanted to talk about ARM.
Go ahead, get it out of you.
Okay, the ARM crap actually allows you to export your Unreal Engine 4 game to shit like the Raspberry Pi, which brings some interesting ideas if you're going to make like an arcade cabinet or something like
Jordan,
that.
Jordan, what would you possibly know about the Raspberry Pi?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sure?
Totally didn't.
Okay.
Totally didn't build an operating system for it. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
All right, that's making sure.
Okay.
Yeah, speculate.
Speculate. I'm Obsidian on What's Next for Pillars of Eternity. We own
that's the wrong story.
No, that's you forgot to cue that up in the links apparently.
Well, go with the Obsidian.
This one comes from Twitter and from Feral Interactive. They say this is our 5,000th tweet. To celebrate, we'll be totally evil and tease yet another upcoming Mac and Linux game right here in this tweet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the two main guesses for what this might be is Evil Genius or Total War.
I don't know. A lot of people are like, evil is like, oh, maybe it's good versus black and white, something like that. Maybe.
Or Medieval 2, Total War.
No,
I mean, Total War makes perfect sense considering they've already ported the engine, so now they just got to port the actual gameplay.
Well, here's an interesting little thing that you just might want to fucking pull up.
Oh my god!
This is Ferals 403, and they're trying to be cheeky about it, because I think somewhere down, oh, you scamps, but do bear in mind that our webmaster can be just as wilty thing. Bullshit.
Yep.
So, for my games to pick of is Alien Isolation, Batman Arkham Knight, Company Heroes 2, which we have, Evolve, Grid Autosport, Shadow of Mordor, which we have, Sleeping Dogs Thief, or XCOM 2, Brad. What do you think?
We know XCOM 2 is coming for sure. Grid Autosport is coming for sure. Batman Arkham Knight is coming for sure. So
Alien
Isolation,
sure.
maybe. Evolve, maybe.
That was possibly confirmed. Yeah.
No, Jordan, you don't understand. They have a very cheeky webmaster that just kind of threw that in there for fun.
The Alien Isolation one showed up on the Steam DB though, so there's some credence for that.
Crushing my dreams.
Yeah.
That's what I love doing, and I also love crushing your balls. And I don't know, there's something pillars. Pedro, take it.
Yes, something pillars. So. Let me give you a little backstory if you guys haven't been watching the show all that long. I hate Obsidian.
Sit right down. I'll tell you a little story about how my life got turned up.
Yes. I am the
sit on Pedro's lap. Don't mind the pointy bits.
But yeah, I was kind of forgetting why I hated Obsidian because they'd actually been good to Linux. They had released Pillars of Eternity on day one, which is a pretty big game and had a pretty successful Kickstarter and everything. And I'm like, okay, maybe Obsidian's not that bad. And now they say, yeah, so we had some logistical problems with Linux.
Such as?
Here's the exact quote. I don't think it was worthwhile developing for Linux. This comes from Brandon Adler, one of the developers at Obsidian. They are a very, very small portion of our active user base. I think around 1.5% of our users were Linux. And so I did a little digging after that, but before I get into that, thanks for that, Brad. I was kind of, forgetting why I hated you. Yeah. So they were whining because they had some logistical issues, and with this first interview that they gave PC Gamer, they didn't actually tell anyone what those logistical issues were.
The link to this is all in our show notes, by the way.
Yes, there'll be a link in the show notes for everything. But then on their forums, they actually say, yeah, we basically had to build our Linux infrastructure from scratch on our side. It wasn't something we were used to. Oh, yeah. Installing Linux is really hard.
Oh man, we don't want our developers to learn new things. Oh my god!
It was also painful for us to develop in Linux because the Unity tools didn't support Linux at the time. That meant we were unable to debug on the platform. Yeah, because Valgrind and GDB were not a thing. You what, mate? But
I don't know. I'm going to sound a bit of a heretic.
Okay.
Okay. I'm kind of coming at this from a bit of a sideways perspective.
Go for it.
I was curious, just reading this article, and I was like, okay, so this is from PC Gamer, right? These are the type of people who believe PC equals Windows. Yes. Can we get a checkbox on that? All right. Brilliant. So, how much work went into your Mac port, Brad? Why did they ask that? And I'm not blaming the developers. They never asked. I was like, what about the Mac port? You had to probably learn some new things about that. And what were the Mac sales? Well, who knows? They didn't bother asking that.
Fuck all if anyone knows.
You would think, because, Windows was their primary platform, but they also had to do the Mac and the Linuxes, and both of those on Unity are about equally as fucking sketchy. But,
yeah. I would say Mac even more so.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't hate on Pillars, because really it seems like all they're genuinely bitching about is, we had to learn a new environment, it was difficult. No shit, son. No shit. I'm not saying don't hate on them. Just keep in your mind organ that this is from our good friends at PC Gamer. That tends to only report. I mean, do a search for Linux, and pretty much anything they write about Linux is negative. Because,
they're
kind of like a more evolved version of PC perspective. Like, Linux is bad. We only want to talk about the Windows because we can click next really hard, and we don't want to talk about that moon technology of Linux. Woo!
But going back to Obsidian for a second.
Okay.
I mean, really, because we can have our Bash PC Gamer podcast. That's just easy. That's like beating up a 4-year-old. Well, maybe not for Pedro, but. Anyways, no, Obsidian, you're being rather silly about this. Number one, Yeah, it's 1.5%. That's still a significant portion of money. Pillars of Eternity made like tens of millions of dollars in the Kickstarter, so that's not an insignificant chunk of money. Additionally, Linux users
Jordan,
are
we
fairly...
had to actually spend some of that money.
Yeah, I know. I mean, installing Ubuntu is so hard, guys.
Well, no, you got to get a Linux box. You got to go, to the Linux store that sells the Linux boxes and pick up a Linux box and bring it back to the
System 76, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they make
But
Linux
to address
so simple, even Pillars of Eternity.
To address what Striker is saying in chat realm right there, they actually said that now that we have gone through the process of creating these builds, it's something that will be much easier for us in the future. Oh, right, in the future.
You think?
Let me.
If you actually take the time to learn something, are you saying you can take that knowledge and apply it to something in the future?
Yeah, hindsight's a real bitch like that. The amount of backpedaling in that forum post is enough to slow the rotation of the planet. And this goes out to the Linux users right there that are sucking Obsidian's dick. I mean, the amount of dick sucking in that thread is actually tickling my gag reflex.
You're saying there's something wrong with sucking dick, dude?
There's absolutely nothing wrong with dick. It actually makes me want to go out and suck some dick to get that taste out of my mouth.
But I guess what you're trying to say is they're sucking so much dick they're being greedy about it. I mean, they're leaving less dick for other people to suck.
Yes, and of course, indeed. Obsidian had...
But, Pedro, you've talked a ton. Can I talk, please?
No, you cannot. This one is mine.
Fuck you.
We don't have a review segment coming up next, so you shut the fuck up right now, Jordan. Thank you.
Bring it, Cupcake. But no, all I'm saying is these guys did not provide any concrete information as to why developing on Linux was particularly difficult. Maybe they could leverage, I don't know, maybe the community, which is full of developers.
What do you think about my thoughts? I mean, this really seems like it was worded to make Linux look bad. I mean, that's what the question is.
I mean, okay, the interview is a puff piece. I don't know why they included that right at the very beginning, because it seems like a fairly ancillary point considering what they talk about for the rest of the article.
Why was Linux so bad? Why was Linux so hard?
Because I like to complain, and my interviews ask a ton of leading questions. Yeah, I mean, really, supporting Linux is a good move in the long run, and I'll hand this back to Pedro so he can finish his spiel, because I just wanted to say that, but I got interrupted. So,
yeah, no, it's Obsidian. They also, in the PC Gamer article, they complain about their bugs. It's just fucking Obsidian and their bugs. It's not like, I don't know, Knights of the Old Republic 2, Neverwinter Nights 2, Dungeon Siege 3, Fallout New Vegas. One of whom in outright fucking broken states or anything, right? And Linux, Unity on Linux is the hard.
Gentlemen.
There's the fucking gore.
Maybe we should focus more of our time thinking not pillars of eternity, but the pillars of our community.
Ah, that's right. You see, we love our Patreons who give us money every single week, and we got a couple new ones this week. Yeah, boy, howdy, we got some donors, all right.
That's actually a lot more money.
You see, last week we were just like fucking around. We're like, okay, me and Pedro opened a dock. The dock's created. If this ever happens in this Moontech. And last week, somebody's like, oh, we still want that portal too, so they kind of they're pledged and all that. But we said, check this out. At 150 per Saturday Night Trainwreck, we'll do the midweek show, the Wednesday show, where we're going to talk about general Linux stuff, a lot of Linux gaming and all that business, and probably bring some interviews on, which we kind of have those lined up, and they rhyme with Ryan C. Gordon.
And the guy from LinuxGames.com, too.
But we're going to need about 150.
Yeah, we're gonna need another $15 on top of what we have so far. We're at 135.01. We got some lovely bonuses for you people if you back us. 5 cents a show gets you early access to all our Let's Plays and busted ass early accesses. You pay for $1 and you get a custom forum title, $2.50 a show, and you get our show notes where you can see Pedro and I lambast each other in text form as opposed to oral form. It's good stuff. The Linux GameCast Weekly Gaming Wednesdays, Daily Wednesdays, whatever the hell it's called. We're great at naming things here at Linux GameCast.
No, we're definitely going to be doing that show. It's going to be a great thing, P-Man. We got some people to thank, though, son.
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
we got Andrew S. and Mr. Stroker.
Andrew S., which you may know from Google+.
Mhm.
He has actually been commenting and throwing us some hate mail for a long, long time. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very, very much.
Indeed,
And
it's a very generous contribution.
They see me
Bram
stroking.
Stroker. Yeah, Bram Stroker.
What is that
Stroke it,
song?
baby.
Stroke into the east, stroke into the...
Stroking for the
baby.
Lord. But up next,
No. I just want to say, I mean, it's 45. We get there. That's going to be a
just
brilliant
15.
piece of thing. And I mean, here's the genuine fucking dice. I mean, I'm going to have a little 2-point system here before we close this out. Thanks, guys. When we started this clusterfuck of a fucking show, it was genuinely just me and Jordan, and Steam wasn't even out yet. And I was like, hey, man, we're not even worried about doing a show. We're just going to chill out. We're going to talk about fucking Linux games, and we're going to record it and put it online and deal with it. And then we got Patreon on, and now we've turned into, Cocaine Voltron. And that's a real thing. It's fucking amazing, and it's all because of you. I mean, T. Brown, people all throughout the times, just like, hey, we fucking believe in you. We're going to throw you some fucking wet, stinky, empty, definitely, and all that.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Free Jack, he kind of helped us set up the ring.
every fucking week, it just amazes me when I see
Frenchie's been a supporter for a long time.
Yeah.
new people showing up and kicking some quid. I mean, that means, we try to give you the most value that we possibly can. We really do.
It really does mean the world to us that you guys
even at 5
feel
cents,
the need to help us out. That is
completely
astounding.
brilliant. We try to give you value. If
We
you think that we give you value and want to give some value back, kick in 5 cents, kick us a quid, 10 cents. That's brilliant.
And if you can't afford a Patreon, we got an Amazon affiliate link, or just spread the word. We tell everyone.
Yes, use that Amazon affiliate link that I even forget to use.
Yes. Yes. One of these days we're going to put up the Chrome extension to auto set the Amazon affiliate link. But we love you guys. Tell your friends, tell your family, and
we really want to do this new show. It's going to be fucking awesome.
It's going to be pretty cool. Yeah. Up next, we don't have a review this week due to technical difficulties regarding Company of Heroes. This will be happening next week, though, but stay tuned for the hate mail.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the hate mail. And it's been so long since we've got some actual genuine hate mail that Peepers.
Jeepers creepers.
People are actually condescendingly sending in hate mail just to please me. I mean, what the hell? Come on, man.
Yeah,
So,
no one wants
you know
to
how
please
to get in
Pedro.
touch with us. That's old news. Jordan, take it away.
All right, so this is from Arthur, and he has this wonderfully genius letter that he sent to us, and he says, "Hey guys, you mentioned that games in Java."
Java gays? All right. Show
Yes,
title.
Java gays.
Oh man, send your hate mail too. Do you think if e.g. Minecraft would be written in C++, it would perform better than now? Best regards from Slovakia. Well, Arthur.
First of all, I want to give him 10,000 Venn points for using EG correctly.
Yeah. But they did that already, Mr. Theron. It's called Minetest, and it performs better than Minecraft. Next question.
Considerably, yeah. I mean, it runs on a Raspberry Pi.
Well, I mean, he's thinking about it. I mean, even Microsoft has the crippled version of Minecraft that they've redone in
that was written in
C Sharp.
Yep.
Now that they own the property, and trust me, that's the way shit's going. Didn't Notch even say, he's like, I'm a shit programmer, and I was doing this in Java because it was easy, P-Man?
Yep, he did. Also, he said some similar things about the art, the whole voxel things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of interesting how limitations inform development and creation of art. But anyways, this next one is from Alex, and he says, "That fighting's game. Welcome to 1998 with no Dreamcast disc. Even my mother is laughing at how shitty the graphics are, and she rates it a quarter chair from the above anecdotal
What fighting
evidence."
game is he talking about?
He's talking about Kings of Kung Fury.
I've heard of that.
Yes, we threw some chairs at it last week. It is pretty ugly. We talked at length about how ugly this game was. Pedro, how ugly was that game?
It was very, very ugly. It's carted by with 2 chairs based on a technicality that it actually launched when we clicked on the play button.
And it had rebindable controls. That was the other thing that saved it.
That was basically it.
Really high standards at LinuxGameCast, but finally, Pedro.
But yeah, lastly, we have Truggleswick actually sending us some hate mail, or at least attempting to. Because I can't do what Pedro said, little family doesn't have any. Yeah.
Yes.
After you reviewed Kings of Bumfu, I decided to try the Steam refund system, and it seems to have a loophole, the 2-week rule. So a developer can have a busted game in early access. You buy it, and wait for updates/fixes. But when the fixes never come, you can't get a refund because you've owned the game for over 2 weeks. It took Steam about 30 minutes to nope my refund claim, and I wouldn't have tried. I shouldn't have tried claiming refunds for all my busted games at once. Witcher 2, Banner Saga, etc. Peace.
Pedro, you better try again.
Yes.
Well, and I mean, he brings up an interesting point, though.
It is, yeah.
I mean, early
Explain
access
it to
games,
me,
sure,
baby.
you're paying for an incomplete product, but with the expectation that you will get regular updates as they fix things. But yeah,
I guess one of the biggest issues with early access, if you're on the Linuxes and if you support the project, long as you're not, from Pixel Beam Studios, the creators of that fantastic fucking game that I'm about to throw into the bus in the after show, deal with it. I mean, you want to support the project, do it. It's like us. Yeah. We're not finished. Support us on Patreon. You're not getting a refund.
Yeah, we're maybe, second trimester LinuxGameCast?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting there. I mean, our final form, yet to be explained. But when it comes down to refunds, yeah, especially with early access, Jordan probably will explain this better than I will. If I buy an early access game and I'll check it, and I use refunds because I'm the type of person that bought Diet Coke with lime. I was like, oh god, that's horrible. I had to finish the whole fucking bottle because it was my responsibility of buying the damn thing. It was completely miserable. But I choked it down. The same way with most of the time with early access. And I was like, that's my fault. I bought the damn game. But sometimes it's so...
It's a fine line.
Yeah, I want to get this out. I mean, if you immediately buy it and it's completely... Especially if it shows up with the Unity Scream the Unity Scream of Nope.
It causes the Unity Scream of Nope, doesn't it? No, I mean, Ben, you raise a very good point, and it is a fine line. But ultimately... ultimately, with early access, you are supporting the project, but there should be some expectation that, bugs will be fixed and the game should remain in a mostly playable state for people on all platforms. And I think maybe Valve needs to take some time and consider this as an option, especially for early access.
Hang on. What if I released a game and let's just say for the last 3 months, I'm still selling the Linux version, it's completely unplayable?
Then your name would be Storm United, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would be from Pixel Beam Studios, ladies and gentlemen. LGC cares.
Valve kind of has a special rule when it comes to refunds on pre-orders, but early access is not included in that special rule.
Well, long as you do it in the other 2-hour rule, man. Come on.
Yeah, 2 hours of playtime, 2 weeks of actually having the game in your library.
Pedro, are you telling me after 1.5 ons, I can't tell this game's completely fucking busted?
Yes.
With a dragon.
You fucking can. You can do that 5 minutes in.
You gotta go onto the other branch, right? Yeah.
That's not the point. It's just that if you're buying into an early access game, say you believe in the project, you think that it may succeed at some point, for some reason. But in early access, you're actually buying the game and you're subject to the same rules as though you were buying into a game that was technically already out. That's not fair because the game is not already out. It's in beta, it's in alpha, it's in whatever the developers want to call it. They're just putting it in early access to avoid criticism because that's what they do.
Yes, much like Linux Gamecast, but you're paying in the belief that it eventually might become worth watching.
Eventually, we'll get
Eventually.
good.
And the joke's on all of you, because it never will be. And on that bombshell,
Let's cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Moon Time on the Twitches. We're doing that business. Maybe we'll go to the YouTubes one day. Probably never the hitboxes because they still need flash and nobody supports that noise anymore. I'm Vin Stone. You can always find me cleverly disguised at Vin Stone on the Twitternets. Plus Vin Stone on the G+s if you ever want to scream in my direction. Linux Gamecast on the Steams. I'm not going to give you a 100% guarantee that I'll get back to you, but if you send me an email message to the hate mail and all that, and we'll spread it around, and we will get back to you, because we do believe in that.
Yep. I'm Jordan Svung. You can find me out on the street yelling at homeless people, or on the Burning Pool on Twitter, or plus Jordan Svung on the Google+.
And I am Pedro Mateos. I live on a borderline third world country, so you will not find me on the street because I'm afraid I'll get shot again.
Selling oranges.
You can
Shot by oranges.
You can always find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter or plus Pedro Mateos on Google+.
And just remember, ladies and gentlemen, zombie demon hordes of the internet, beautiful party people, 5 dudes.
Hashtag 5 dudes.
The room with the 5 dudes.
The clown with the 5 dudes.
Oh, and we didn't even fucking bring it
with
up in
the
the Pillars of
five
Eternity
dudes.
thing. God damn it! That was where it came from.
It's no room with a moose, son.
that was actually Pillars of Eternity. Shit!
Oh, we fucked 5 dudes.